Welcome to Better Life. Today, we're diving into an explainer on why we put things off and how scientific research provides the ultimate cure for procrastination. We all have goals, right? Maybe it's acing an upcoming college exam, prepping for that dream job interview, or finally sticking to a fitness routine. Figuring out what we want to achieve takes literally zero time. But when it's actually time to sit down and do the work, man, there's this intense, almost magnetic pull telling us, we can just do it tomorrow. And suddenly, we're deep into a social media rabbit hole or watching random comedy clips instead. Well, today, we're going way beyond cheap motivational advice. We're going to deeply explore the actual psychology behind procrastination and unpack the real, scientifically backed solutions straight from the source material.
Okay, let's take a quick look at our agenda. We'll kick things off with the procrastination epidemic, jump into the infinite delay trap, unpack 4 theories of motivation, uncover the fear of failure, and finally wrap up with the scientific cure.
So, part 1, the procrastination epidemic.
We love to blame our smartphones and social media algorithms for our lack of focus, and sure, they definitely amplify the issue. But this foundational flaw, it actually goes back thousands of years. Just look at this ancient 1400 BC Egyptian hieroglyph. It says, "Friend, stop putting off work and allow us to go home in good time." That is just hilariously relatable, isn't it? Even ancient Egyptians were begging their coworkers to stop slacking off. Couple that with similar warnings from Greek poets in 800 BC and the wise words of Saint Kabir centuries ago, and it's crystal clear. Putting off hard work for immediate comfort is just a fundamental human flaw. Humanity has always struggled with this, recognizing the danger of delaying responsibilities until disaster strikes.
But the sheer scale today is wild. According to global research, a staggering 50% of the population procrastinates. And get this, chronic cases have spiked by 400% in just the last 40 years. So while the urge to delay has always been around, our modern world has basically poured gasoline on the fire. Leading scientists note that we have gotten significantly worse at managing this biological glitch.
Which brings us to part 2, the infinite delay trap.
Think about it. When we have strict deadlines for an exam or a big office presentation, we eventually panic and get to work. But what happens when there is no deadline? As the sources point out, we don't procrastinate on easy, fun stuff like scrolling Instagram. We put off things requiring serious physical, mental, or emotional effort. A deadline forces our hand. But look at this contrast between short-term delay and the infinite delay trap. Wasting time in college? Bad grades. Rushing a presentation, a bit of stress. Short term. But procrastinating on your life's unwritten goals, like starting a business, getting healthy, or reaching out to a loved one, there's no deadline for those. Avoiding fitness or emotional outreach leads to permanent, heavy life regrets. It creates what researchers call cognitive dissonance. It's this massive, incredibly stressful gap between what you want to do and what you're actually doing, which leads to deep anxiety and depression.
Let's move to part 3, 4 theories of motivation.
If procrastination makes us so miserable, why on earth do we keep doing it? Well, science gives us 4 very distinct frameworks to explain exactly how our brains calculate motivation. The first is expectancy theory from 1964. The core idea is that your motivation directly correlates with your expectation of actually achieving the result. Imagine someone offered you a ₹1,000,000 prize to rank first in your class, but you know you really struggle academically. Your expectancy is low, which means your motivation to study will be practically non-existent. A massive reward doesn't mean a thing if your brain secretly believes the path is impossible for you. Motivation is tied directly to your genuine belief in your own success.
Next up is need theory. This states that motivation spikes when a task aligns with your dominant psychological need, like power or affiliation. For example, if a politician whose core driver is power gets a task promising a promotion, they are going to work relentlessly. But give them a task that just involves casual teamwork, they might completely procrastinate. We all have different core drivers. If yours is building connections and seeking approval, you'll naturally avoid tasks that isolate you, no matter how important they look on paper.
Then we have cumulative prospect theory. This one revolves heavily around loss aversion and relative reference points. Loss aversion is this strange quirk in human psychology where the fear of losing something weighs far, far heavier on us than the joy of a similar gain. Basically, preventing a negative outcome is vastly more motivating to us than achieving a positive one of the exact same size.
Check out this comparison. As the research points out, working out just to look a bit more fit, that barely motivates us. But if a doctor looks you in the eye and warns that your inactivity will cause a fatal heart attack in a year, your motivation absolutely skyrockets. When the stakes shift from a slow, eventual gain to an immediate, devastating loss, our brains instantly snap out of procrastination mode. The sheer terror of loss cuts right through our desire to just chill.
This theory also relies on relative reference points. Securing a basic job radically changes the life trajectory of someone living in a slum. But that exact same job, it makes almost no difference to a wealthy heir. Their respective motivation levels to prep for that job will be drastically different. Your motivation is entirely relative to your own starting line. If a task doesn't move the needle for your specific life situation, your brain simply won't waste the energy on it.
And the fourth is hyperbolic discounting theory. This perfectly explains why a sudden fridge raid or watching comedy videos always feels more appealing than grinding toward a distant long-term vision. As humans, we naturally prefer instant, guaranteed gratification over larger, delayed rewards. We are biologically wired to value the now over the later. A quick hit of dopamine today from a funny social media post will mathematically beat out the massive, life-changing reward of a degree that's still 3 years down the line.
So in 2006, scientists combined all these concepts into a master meta-theory called temporal motivation theory. They basically mathematically proved that procrastination vanishes if a task matches your personal psychological needs, offers a high expectation of success, has a high relative reward, and gives instant gratification. They literally created the master formula. When you tweak a task to fit this criteria, your brain simply will not procrastinate.
All right, part 4, the fear of failure.
But hold on a second. If motivation is just a rational mathematical calculation, psychologists point out that something massive is missing from the equation. If we just follow the math, watching YouTube yields higher immediate motivation than studying, right? So we should just happily watch YouTube. But we don't. We watch it and we feel terrible about it. I want you to really think about this. If we naturally prefer easy tasks, why do we feel so much guilt and depression while doing them? That intense guilt proves we aren't just rationally choosing the easier task. The guilt is the key. It reveals that procrastination isn't just lazy dopamine seeking, it's an active, defensive coping mechanism. We are running from something that scares us.
The research reveals the missing link. We procrastinate to protect our fragile egos from the fear of failure. Sometimes we abandon our dreams, like, say, moving to Mumbai to become a filmmaker, simply because our ego is absolutely terrified of what people will say if we fail. It's way easier for your ego to say, yeah, I could have been a great filmmaker, but I just never got around to it, than to actually try your hardest, fail, and face the judgment of your peers. We delay things to protect our self-image.
Finally, part 5, the scientific cure.
Armed with this deep psychological understanding, we can now map out a highly effective, tailored treatment plan. Curing procrastination isn't about watching a hype video that makes you feel fired up for 3 days. It's about auditing your own psychology. Step 1. You must write down the exact cause of your delay. Is it low expectancy, mismatched needs, or fear? Identifying the problem on paper is literally half the battle. Step 2. Trigger loss aversion. If you lack motivation, artificially introduce it by vividly visualizing the negative consequences, like getting fired. And step 3. Divide distant goals into small steps with instant rewards. If the big payoff is 2 years away, you have to hack your brain by creating a system that rewards you today, even if it's just treating yourself to a nice coffee for finishing a single chapter.
Crucially, you have to realize that ego is useless. Do not build your life around the expectations and judgments of other people. Distractions like social media, they're just minor surface obstacles once you cure that underlying fear of judgment. If you're constantly arranging your life to avoid criticism from friends or family, you're going to permanently paralyze yourself. Once you stop caring about looking foolish while trying, the barrier of procrastination just completely crumbles.
And if you need one last push, look at the temporal theory of regret. The science ultimately proves that while actions might produce mild short-term regret, inaction generates massive, haunting long-term regret. This research is incredibly sobering. The pain of, say, quitting your job to follow a dream and failing, that's a sharp, short-term pain. But staying in your comfort zone until you're elderly, constantly wondering what could have been, that is an agonizing, incurable pain.
Will you choose the short-term pain of trying or the long-term haunting of inaction? As we wrap up this explainer, I want you to seriously ask yourself what you've been putting off. You need to decide right now if you are willing to let infinite procrastination steal the life you were meant to live. The science shows us exactly why we delay and exactly how to fix it. The only thing left is the choice you make today. Thanks so much for joining us on Better Life, and we'll see